This is Afropolitan Chef, and you're tuned in to REDTV. Hello and welcome to Afropolitan Chef. I'm Yetunde, your culinary ambassador for African cuisine. And today we're talking beans. I was born in Chicago, raised in Nigeria, but I've also traveled around the world, so I've gotten to experience dishes from other countries. But influenced by West African dishes, I kind of learned to incorporate that into the meals I've experienced on my travels. And that's what Afropolitan Chef is. You get to experience African food in a cosmopolitan way that is easy, fun, flavorful, and absolutely colorful. Plus, it taps into the power and love of food to bring people together. Now, I have a special guest with me that I cannot wait for you to meet. Her name is Jamila Tucker. She's a lovely woman and a new friend of mine who is a pediatrician with a specialty in nutrition. We need that today. Our first recipe is a very simple beans recipe with some red pepper sauce. It's a very classic dish in West Africa, so it's something I want to share with you that you can cook over the weekend and is great for the family. Now, our second dish is something that I actually developed because I was bored of having limited choices with soups in West Africa. So this is a tomato-based soup, but it's a sweet potato-based soup as well. You add in your spices, put in a little flavor, blend that sweet potato, and you have now a new cosmopolitan dish that can be African, but is also cosmopolitan. I'm looking forward to teaching you all these recipes, and Jamila and I are gonna have fun talking to you about it. So stay with us, because you know that the love of food always brings us together. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Afropolitan Chef. With me is my guest, Jamila Tucker. Thank you for joining us. Jamila is a pediatrician with a specialty in nutrition. She's a new friend, and I'm looking forward to the Afro-vegetarian dishes we're gonna make today. So Jamila, are you into beans?
I love beans.
Okay, are you into Afro-vegetarian dishes?
I will be after this.
Okay, that is the plan. So our first dish is actually a very simple dish that you can make typically for the weekends. And it's just literally beans cooked. You add some spices to it and top up the sauce with some red pepper sauce. What you're gonna need for this recipe are black-eyed beans,
Perfect.
red pepper, tomato, red onions, 1 habanero pepper, a paste of tomato. You're gonna need some thyme, some curry, some seasoning, whatever seasoning of your choice, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, and some vegetable broth. And that's all you need to get started. Now, do we want to get to this cooking?
Let's do it.
Okay, so can you turn on this for me? We're gonna need you to pour a little bit of water in the pot.
I can do it.
Awesome. Now, when you think of beans, Jamila, what do you think about when you think of beans?
Well, as a pediatrician, I love beans because they're nutrient dense.
Okay.
So for kids, we always want them to have foods that are rich in nutrition, that will fill them up, high fiber,
Right.
and help them avoid those simple carbohydrates, sugars, and things that we want to reduce in their
I
diet.
love it. Let's add a little bit more water to this.
Okay.
Now, I know usually with kids, it's always very hard to get them to eat beans. I remember being a kid and just like beans was like, no, I don't want it. If it's not blended or if it's not something happened to it, it's very hard. How do you get kids to eat beans?
Well, I think this is a perfect example, this recipe, of a way to get kids to be interested.
Okay.
Between the colors,
Right.
the flavors,
Right.
and the mashing,
Okay.
kids will be very much interested in that.
Okay, I can see how the mashing can work. Because, you know,
Absolutely.
it's not something solid for them.
You got it.
You know, and it works as something delightfully colorful.
Perfectly colorful.
Between the eye, you know, the colors of the tomato puree. Okay, so I've added all the ingredients there. We're gonna turn that on to a little bit of a high, to turn it to the right. Okay, and then we're gonna cover that up for a while. Okay, once you stir it. Now, what I wanna do here is something that's actually a typical sauce for most West African dishes.
Okay.
Is a lot of African dishes, either from Ghana, from Liberia, from Nigeria, they have a lot of sauces. And typically the sauces are onions, red onions or white onions, tomatoes, and red peppers. So you just blend those up. So we're actually gonna do that now.
Perfect.
If you don't mind, if you can pass me a little bit of that water.
I can.
Whatever is left there, we're gonna use for this. Thank
got
you.
it.
Okay. So now, are you familiar with like using sauces and cooking your dishes, or how do you typically prepare your dish, you know, to get kids into some nice vegetarian type food?
I completely agree. Again, the spices and the interest in flavors, I think is a great idea.
Okay.
Anytime that you can, if you have older kids, if you can get them to participate and helping to blend and helping to pick the colors and pick the ingredients, also a great tip for
That's a
parents.
good idea. I like the idea of having them blend. See, the memories I have of blending as a kid was me dodging from my mother because nobody wanted to wake up on Saturday morning running to blend peppers, because next thing you hear is like, Yetunde, Wala, you need to wake up and go blend some peppers. And we both act like we're pretending to sleep, and we know, she knows we heard her. But I can see how kids will enjoy the blending process.
Yes.
So I'm with you on that.
Yes.
Now let's, if you can, stir the beans for me a while I just get this blended. And here's the thing I used to panic about with beans. It takes forever to cook.
They do.
I just remember the first time I really got into cooking beans, and I end up cooking it, I'm like, 1 hour. Are you soft yet? 2 hours. I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't have that patience. So what is the easiest way, which someone told me 2 other ways, but what do you think is the easiest way to get beans cooked quicker?
Well, I'm no expert, so I will defer to your expertise. In my house, the crock pot is the answer, because you can kind of set it and forget it.
Right. That's exactly what I was told, to use a crock pot. And I went out and bought 2 crock pots, and I can tell you that in the last year, I've had beans at least once a week. Thanks to the crock pot. So
Amen.
you know, this today is like, this is the traditional way we do it in West Africa. But now with the cosmopolitan way, you can get a crock pot.
I agree.
And cook that beans in like what, 35, 40, about 5 minutes?
Very quickly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So if you can turn this on for me, we're gonna make a little bit of, I think that's this here. Okay. We're gonna make a little bit of the sauce, tomato sauce. The whole idea of the sauce is basically to add as like a colorful dish. And this dish is actually something that in Nigeria, it's typically something you would find at what they call a mama put restaurant, like one of those hole-in-the-wall restaurants, but it tastes so good. And then you have people from like the high class and the middle class all just like finding themselves in that corner, just digging in. So the difference with our pepper today, though, is not as dark as it typically is. But again, this is the cosmopolitan way. And you know, we're gonna do this dish in a way that is easy, quick, and simple for the person that doesn't have the hole-in-the-wall restaurant recipe.
Love it.
So let's add a little bit of oil in there, if you can.
Absolutely.
Vegetable oil, just a little bit.
You got it.
Okay, perfect. Now the trick that, I don't know if you know this trick, but whenever you're cooking with oil, the way my mother used to measure it, and I think maybe it's because we didn't have a thermometer at home to measure temperature, she would throw in a piece of onion.
Got it.
Have you heard of that trick before?
No.
Okay, well this is new.
I love it.
If you don't have a thermometer at home, or you know, the thing you need to use to test the temperature, throw in a little bit of onion.
Okay.
And once it starts to sizzle, that's when you know, all right, I'm just about right
It's
and ready to,
That's a great tip.
Definitely. So now when working with kids and the dishes they eat, how do you get kids that get allergic to stuff now eating things that are healthier for them but tasty? Because we find that a lot of vegetarian dishes are not as spicy or colorful as people want it to be. What do you think about how you can get kids to eat that kind of stuff?
Well, I actually love vegetarian dishes. A lot of kids that have allergies tend to have allergies to things that are more animal-based, so like milk and eggs, and there are some kids that have soy allergies, but a lot of vegetarian options are great options for kids because they tend to have less allergens and less things that kids are allergic to.
So what would be an example of a what would be that option, like what dish?
So for example, this dish I love because it has protein and whole vegetables in it. So a lot of times, for example, when families have kids that are allergic to shellfish or meat or milk or eggs, they run out of protein options, and beans and legumes, green peas, black-eyed peas. I have never met a pea I did not like. Or a bean.
That's good.
They're wonderful.
I love the idea of that. That's really great because I think, you know, most parents struggle with trying to get their kids to eat this stuff.
You got it.
And I know, you know, blending it in a way that is easy to digest and undetectable
Indeed.
is awesome.
Exactly.
So now this dish, we're almost done. Super simple. We already actually cooked some of our beans.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is mash it a little bit. While this is cooking, I'm gonna get this out of your way.
Okay.
But while this is cooking, I'm gonna have you pull up a spoon, and then we'll have the pleasure of plating this together. But let me mash the beans first.
Perfect.
Now, when you think of Afro-vegetarian dishes, what do you imagine? Afro-vegetarian dishes.
I think of curries.
Right.
I think of things like banana as a starch and as a base.
Okay.
And again, with all of the vegetables and the colors,
Right.
this is perfect. I think this is a beautiful cuisine, and I love the way that you've mixed the West African vibe and the cosmopolitan flair to make it very relatable. I have to tell you that I'm not a huge chef myself, but what I love about this recipe is that these are ingredients that even someone like me would have at home.
Okay, I love it.
I love this recipe.
I love it. Awesome. Okay, we're gonna plate this. So if you can pass that for me.
Of course.
Careful with the heat.
You got it.
You can actually turn that off since we have our beans already. Okay. Now this, I like stuff to be presentable. So this is like my fancy presentation of beans.
It's beautiful.
And sharing this, I remember sharing this picture with friends and family. Like, oh my God, where did you get that? I'm like, I made it at home. Just took a couple of minutes, nothing too crazy.
It's all about the presentation.
Exactly. So I'm gonna do a little dip in here.
You got it.
And then here's a spoon for you. You have another spoon there?
I do.
Okay, so let's put a little bit of the sauce right in the center. There you go. Let's do one more spoon. Now, doesn't that look good? This is how presentation is super important. And so we're going to garnish this.
It's beautiful.
With a little bit of cilantro.
Love cilantro.
Yep, I love it too. I just actually got into cilantro maybe like 3 years ago. So it's super exciting.
Yeah.
Love this, okay? And there you have it. Our lovely bean with the red pepper sauce. How do you not want to take a bite of this?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad because we have another dish coming up that's super vegetarian, super fun. Hang with us and remember that the love of food brings us together. We're gonna have some more fun when we get back. Welcome back to Afropolitan Chef. I'm still here with my new friend Jamila Tucker, pediatrician and specialist in nutrition. So Jamila, are you ready for the second dish?
I'm ready. This looks amazing.
Let's get this started. Now, I actually discovered this recipe from the need to come up with a soup that I can enjoy. Because most African dishes have soups, but soup is like a side thought. So the idea of this soup was I wanted to create something cosmopolitan that Africans can dig into and be a part of. So sweet potatoes are my key ingredients. For the sweet potato soup, you're going to need 1 large sweet potato. You're going to need some nutmeg and some cinnamon. Seasoning of your choice, some thyme, some curry, some salt, a cup of almond milk, a little bit of butter, some cilantro, some ginger, some black pepper. You're gonna need a little bit of paprika. You blend those together and you get the perfect Afropolitan Chef potato soup. Now, when you cook at home or whenever you do get around to cooking, what do you do with sweet potatoes?
I tend to just bake them.
Okay.
And eat them like regular white potatoes with a little bit of butter and sometimes cinnamon.
Okay, so what I'm gonna have you help me do is open up the pot and pour in some water in there, about half the content.
Okay.
And then you're gonna turn on the stove on that. So what I'm doing here is basically making my version of a sweet potato soup, adding ingredients that I grew up with.
Love it.
And sharing it in a way that now Africans and non-Africans can think about another option for soup. Because I know in Nigeria we had something called pepper soup, and I was like, okay, what other soups do we have? There's limited views. So this was like, I want a soup, and this is something that's easy to make. So I hope that you can touch into this as well and make some of this soup.
I'm definitely gonna try it.
Awesome. You can pour this in there for me. I'm gonna have you as my special assistant today because we have a lot of spices to add in there. For this second recipe, we're making a sweet potato soup. The ingredients you're gonna need for the sweet potato soup are chicken broth. So you can add that in there.
Will do.
We're gonna need a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of cinnamon. Now these are ingredients I actually grew up with. So I'm super excited. You can help me pass the nutmeg back actually. I can take that back so that you're not too crowded over there.
No worries.
And this is some black pepper, so put that in there. Now this is one of the ingredients that my mother cooked with. Ginger. Do you use ginger for any of your dishes?
I do. I love ginger, and again, not to sneak the pediatrician thing in again, but ginger is a natural anti-nausea.
Okay, I didn't know
herb.
that. Okay.
Yeah, so you can use it in lots of dishes, or if there's any particular time that your kids aren't feeling so well, adding a little bit to their recipes, I think will definitely help.
Do you blend your ginger? Because I just remember for a long time not even knowing what ginger looked like, because my mother always used the powdered ginger. So when you deal with kids, do you do like the blended ginger for them, or do you use like the raw ginger and then like grate it?
The ginger root is definitely stronger.
Okay.
So when you want to get the best, strongest medicinal property out of it, the ginger root is the best.
Okay.
But most families tend to have the dried and powdered ginger at home, and it will last longer. So I could see why that would be a good option.
All right, that's a little black pepper, so we'll add that in there. And then another thing I know that I started to add in is just like my own seasoning. So even if you have whatever Creole seasoning, whatever seasoning you have at home, put it in there to give you your own special flavor for this recipe. Now, the next thing I add is some thyme.
Yep.
And then a little bit of curry. It's funny because this recipe came to me just like out of that need, like I said, to create some kind of soup. But I also remember I was hosting a dinner party and I was trying to plan like a 4-course meal, and I'm like, I don't know what African soups to make. So this was like my whip it, you know, I added ingredients that my mother uses. So I'm definitely excited about it.
Perfect.
So let's add a little bit of salt to that. A little bit more.
A little more.
Okay. Can you turn that onto a high?
Yes.
Now, what we're gonna do while that is making up is we're going to make a little bit of salad. I'm excited about this because this salad was something that I made that was in the house, and I just wanted something fresh. I've actually been making this for 3 years.
Yeah.
So when you make salads, do you think of salads that are like typical in terms of when you go to certain restaurants, they have like a Caesar salad, or do you like make your own salad?
I like having fresh ingredients, so whatever is fresh and seasonal.
Okay.
A lot of restaurants might change the salad ingredient based on what's seasonal, so whatever looks good when I'm shopping for myself in the market that day, it's coming home with me for my
I like
salad.
that. Can you help me pass the mango, please?
You got it.
Now, this little quick salad that I'm gonna make is a perfect dish for the vegetarian, Afro-vegetarian in you. So you get to have all these ingredients, and in this ingredient, we have some red onion, some green tomato, regular tomato, and cucumber. You can dice it, slice it, you know, whatever works for you. And then sometimes I actually add pineapples. So what do you think about adding fruits to your salads?
Absolutely. So again, for kids, more color, more flavors, always a little bit of sweet. They'll definitely gravitate to that. So if you can mix in your vegetables with a little something sweet, you're much more likely to get them to love it.
Nice. I am all for kids, you know, eating their vegetables and fruits, because it's so hard. As a kid, I just know if the food didn't look good, I wasn't having it. So my mother always like incorporated colors into the things that she made for me.
The colors really matter. I agree with that.
Please help me put that back in here. Okay, now with this salad, this is one of the ways I learned to cook, to break down mango.
That's so beautiful.
This is one of those things you discover online, and you just, you know, cut it on the sides and cut in slices. Now, depending on how soft or hard it is, it might be easy to remove. And then we're gonna add those vegetables. So let's see if you can pass that for me.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Now this, instead of using like typical dressings, I actually like whipped up something in the house. I just added a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of salt, and just tossed it. It was super tasty because all of this have the ingredients already.
That seems very easy. I love it. So is mango a common fruit in West Africa as well?
Absolutely. We eat a lot of mangoes. And you know, now that you mention it, I remember I never used to like mangoes. I don't know what happened. I'm trying to remember what happened that made me stop, you know, get to eating mangoes. But mangoes are everywhere. And then when they're in season, there's the cherry mango, the one that like drips all over your hands.
Beautiful.
That was a thing then, and you wanted to see how juicy it was. So yes, mangoes are very, very, you know, regular in West Africa, most African countries actually. And then for cucumbers, I just know when my mother made salads then, cucumber was like she would do the round versions.
Yes.
And so that was like the thing I recognized as cucumber, but it was for the color, not for the taste.
I got it.
And now as I get older, if you can close that for me.
Sure.
While that's cooking. And now as I get older, I'm realizing that I like cucumbers. Sometimes, you know, I dip them in some other, you know, salad dressing. They're a nice, quick, you know, snack to eat.
Yep.
And then if you can, please pass me the olive oil.
Absolutely.
Okay. Gonna put just a little bit of it.
This salad looks amazing.
I am super excited about this. Something simple. And this is perfect for the vegetarian. So you can use whatever olive oil, walnut oil, almond seed oil, up to you there. The whole idea is to use the kind of oil that, you know, suits you.
Perfect.
Now, my little secret ingredient here is a little bit of paprika. So I'll have you do the honors of giving us a splash of paprika.
Love it.
There you go. Give us a little bit more.
A little bit more. Okay.
Give us some nice.
Very beautiful color.
Okay. And then you stir that up, and then to be bold, sometimes I actually add some pepper.
Nice.
Just to kick it off. Now we're gonna put this to the side just a little bit, because typically when you make the sweet potatoes, because I try to pair it together, so when you're making the sweet potatoes, it actually takes maybe about 25 to 30 minutes. So what you wanna do is boil all those ingredients and put it in there, and the last thing you add is some almond milk.
Oh.
And then, you know, should you choose, you can add some butter, and then you actually use a hand mixer. And I actually used to use a regular blender, and I was like, I gotta figure this out. Like, I can't pour hot content into a blender.
Very complicated.
And that's where this came in. So I love my little hand blender.
Genius.
Because I get to blend this with it. So now, if you cooked all of this at home, that's what it will look like. So can you pass that for me?
Yes.
Wash your hands with the pot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. That looks great.
That looks amazing.
Look at this. All right, we're gonna just basically serve our salad up here. Look at that.
Beautiful.
That looks colorful. I am so loving this. This is absolutely beautiful.
I love it.
And it's refreshing. So this is what a vegetarian meal could look like. Now I like my little habanero, so I'm gonna add this to it. Just one little round slice.
Beautiful.
As a garnish, a little bit of cilantro. And there you have it, a perfect sweet potato soup with some salad. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have Jamila here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope that you're gonna try this meal when you get home.
I definitely will.
Until next time, have a wonderful day. Remember that the love of food brings us together. Welcome back to Afropolitan Chef. It was so exciting having my new friend Jamila Tucker here, who's a pediatrician with a specialty in nutrition. Having her here helped us talk about beans and how she would love to cook with beans. So I had fun talking to her about these new dishes that are totally Afro-vegetarian. Now, our first dish was beans with a red pepper sauce. The first step is to cook your beans and add all your spices in there and then let it cook. For the pepper sauce, all you need to do is blend the onions, tomatoes, and red pepper and put it in a pot with some oil, add your spices, and that is it. This is the best food to serve for a weekend. Now, our second dish was my favorite. It was my sweet potato soup and some salad. For the sweet potato soup, you wanna chop up the sweet potatoes, add some water, put in all your spices, and then you add some almond milk and some butter, and then you blend it with a hand blender, and voila, you are done. Now, there's one more trick I want to show you. As you know, I share my little photo tricks with you as you're going to be taking pictures to be the rock star that you are on social media, right? So what we're going to do is think about contrast. When you put things together, think about how they complement each other. So if you have a dish that is orange, make sure its complementing dish has some orange in it. It helps the color balance. One of the tricks I actually do is creating contrast with my dishes. So for this dish, I'm gonna put a placemat with a different color against a white plate. That contrast alone makes this stand out. Look at this, how gorgeous this is. You can use your professional camera or pull up your phone. And what you wanna do is always reduce your height and make sure you're shooting up close and personal. So you wanna take your phone and shoot from an angle, and when you have two dishes on the table, you want to shoot in a way that this one in the back is blurry. It just makes me wonder when I see your picture, what's back there? I want it. So shoot from the side. That's a nice shot. And then you can shoot from this side as well, so you have the beans and then the soup in the background. That's a perfect shot. There you have it. Let's do the typical top one that we always like to do. There you go. That looks really good. And that is exactly how you can get some really nice pictures for your social media. Always think of contrast. So with this, think about the brown of the beans. Our contrast here is the sauce and the cilantro on top of it. Always think about shapes too, some nice shapes that you can have. So I hope you've enjoyed this learning process with photos. Remember that the love of food always brings us together. Until next time, we'll see you around.